This review is going to be a little bit different from how I normally review an RC transmitter, because this transmitter is a little bit different from the transmitters that you would typically see me reviewing on this channel. You see, the Radiomaster AX12 is an RC controller with sticks and switches just like you've seen before. But unlike the RC controllers you've seen me review in the past on this channel, it does not run the HDTX operating system. In fact, it runs the Android operating system. This is an RC controller with Express LRS built in and all of the features that you would normally expect, combined with an Android device. So like, who is this actually for? Because I'm going to bet that most of the time when you're out flying, you don't touch your phone. You're not sitting there with your phone like clamped to your controller, looking down at it, running some app. And even if you are using your Android phone for something, even if you use it all the time while you're flying, why wouldn't you just keep your existing controller and use your phone? But I think there's at least one or two people out there for whom this device is going to enable you to do something that you really want to do, and that would cost you a lot more money to do any other way. And I think there's some potential pitfalls with this device that would make you, whoa, not for me. I'm going to tell you what those are in this video. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Before we talk about the unique things that the X12 lets you do, let's just talk about what it is. And the first thing it is an RC controller. So like, how is it as an RC controller? It's got gimbals here. They are not the biggest gimbals that Radiomaster makes. They're fairly small. They feel okay. They're fine. But suffice it to say that the focus on this device is going to be, it's kind of like all-in-one capabilities and its size. It's going after something more like the DJI Pro controller, or one of those controllers that you get for an autonomous aircraft that runs RG-Pilot and flies around, and you want to be able to track it on a map or something like that. So the focus is not really on the gimbals, although the gimbals are fine. It's got trim switches here. It's got a 6-position switch here across the top. In case you're wondering, that is not a fully programmable trim switch, at least not as far as I can tell, because this radio doesn't run HDTX, so I've had to familiarize myself with the software, and I might have overlooked something. But basically, as far as I can tell, if we look here, this 6-position switch, and we can see here across the front, it just 6 positions across the front, like the old style 6-position switches, not the ability to individually toggle and group them like you can on modern HDTX devices. Across the top, we have 2 3-position switches here and 2 2-position switches here. We've got 2 sliders, one with a center indent and one without, as far as I can tell. I'm not sure what the point of that is. And you can see that as I move them, you can see them move on screen, so you can actually always see what the position of each of them is. That's pretty cool. And on the back here, there are 2 more 3-position switches, and they're super easy to reach with your fingers. In fact, if I just hold the radio up here, you can see that all I have to do is put my finger out there and I can push them. In fact, it's a little too easy. I often find myself accidentally pressing these while I'm just carrying the radio around. It's super easy to do. I suppose that if you're a thumber, right, and you hold your hands like this, you could easily reach out and get those while you're flying. However, if you are a pincher like me, I tend to rest my fingers up here like this, and it's a little harder to get them while you're flying, although it is not the end of the world. The radio's internal RF module runs Express LRS, and as you probably already know by now, Express LRS is an open source control link project. It offers incredibly long range, incredibly low latency, and lots of interesting capabilities, some of which we're going to see in this video are uniquely suited to a radio like this. If we go to the configuration screen, we can see that it is dual band Express LRS, both 915 or 868 megahertz. That's low band, and 2.4 gigahertz. It is running the 1121 chip, in case you were wondering about that. You might have guessed that by the fact that it was dual band. Although the radio is dual band, it is only a single transmitter. It does not do diversity, and it does not do Gemini. And it's worth pointing out that the transmit power only goes up to 250 milliwatts. Hey there, Joshua from the future here. Wow, the 250 milliwatt 900 megahertz output is making a ton of buzzing in my microphone. I can't tell if this is normal or if this is something specifically about the AX12. I'm a little surprised that 250 milliwatts makes that much buzzing at this distance from the microphone, but it is a known thing that 900 megahertz transmitters make buzzing when they are close to microphones. So I will be using a noise reduction plugin on any parts of the video where that is happening, and if some of the audio sounds a little bit weird, that is why, but it's better than you having to listen to that buzzing for the whole rest of the video. So if you're concerned about the longest of long range, you're going to want to put an external module on the back of this radio, and yes, of course, you can. However, if you use an external module, you're going to miss out on a couple of things that are integrated between the radio and its Android operating system. Android operating system? Yes. So if I just swipe down here and tap here, you can see, look, it's Android. It's Android. It just, right? It's Android, except it's Android from like a long time ago. This is running Android version 9 from December 2019. So why do you even care about that? Well, one reason you might care about it is that there may be security updates. There probably have been a ton of security updates since December 2019. You're not going to get them. The main reason this might annoy you is that there are going to be some apps that you can't run on it. The main thing that somebody who bought this device might want to run that will not run because of the older Android version is this. ATAK Civ. This is an app that is used for incident response. It's also used by the military, but basically I don't even know how to sum it up. And this is relevant to people in the FPV and drone field because there's a plugin for TAK, which is the UAS tool plugin, which basically lets you see the location of your drone on the map and do other things like that. In fact, I think with some plugins, you can even see your video feed inside TAK. So it's basically like Mission Planner or QGroundControl. It's just another tool for managing your drones, but TAK can integrate with a whole bunch of other things in addition to drones, whereas Mission Planner and QGroundControl just interface with your drone. This won't run that. And like, if that's what you were hoping to do with this device, that's just an absolute showstopper deal breaker. You can keep watching the video, but this isn't going to be the device for you. So having just told you a thing that this device won't do and sort of turn people off, let me show you what I think is one of the coolest things this device does do that will absolutely make it a must-buy for some people. And I should really hold this off till the end of the video and tease you, but that's never been how I make content. Up here at the top of the radio are the peripherals, and we've got a USB port here, we've got a headphone port here, and most importantly, we've got an HDMI in and an HDMI out. And what that means is that you can use this to display the feed from a DJI goggle and to output it over HDMI. That's right. If you have been thinking about spending hundreds of dollars to buy a Cosmo Streamer device, and all you need is HDMI out to get a feed because you're doing some kind of production stuff with DJI, this is only $250, and it will do it. And that alone is going to make it a must-buy for some people. Let me demonstrate. DJI goggles, USB to the USB port on the AX12. Note that there are two USB ports. One's labeled DSC. I'm not actually sure what that's for, and one is the USB port. DJI Fly app running on the Android. Just install it just like you always install DJI Fly, and we hit Go Fly. Go Fly. Boom. There is our feed from our DJI goggles. And finally, you'll notice nothing is coming into this screen. We've got HDMI out here on the left going into the screen, but what we have to do is go in Android, and there is a option here at the top for HDMI. Where is it? HDMI, there it is. HDMI, turn it on, and bada bing. Boom. There you go. You just saved yourself $350 for a Cosmo Streamer license or whatever it costs. I don't remember what it costs. But with the hardware, if you buy and build a Cosmo Streamer with the hardware in addition to license, you're in for hundreds of dollars. This is $250. You could buy this just for that functionality alone, not even use it as a controller, and come out ahead. Or compare it to the DJI RC Pro controller, which is like $600–700. Now, there's things that Cosmos Streamer can do, like casting over the internet and so forth. There's things Cosmos Streamer can do that this can't. But if all you want is HDMI out from your DJI goggles, this is a hell of a good solution. What's the latency on this? It's horrible. It's horrible. MadsTech tested the latency, and I'm not going to like steal his content by telling you the actual numbers. I'm going to wait for him to publish it. In fact, I'm pretty sure he already did publish it in his review of the AX12. I'll link that down below if you want to go check it out. You totally should. It's horrible. You would not use this to fly off of in any world. However, if all you need is to monitor the feed or to output the feed over HDMI, this is 100% viable. How is the latency? Listen for the clap. There you go. You can hear the clap. You can see the screen moving. You decide for yourself. It's way too high to fly off of. So that's the HDMI out. And yes, anything you can see on the screen of the handset will be displayed via the HDMI out. It's just screen mirroring via HDMI. So like you could think of other uses for that, but I think the main one people are going to use is like for DJI screen mirroring. But what about the HDMI in? Well, to demonstrate that, I've got this set of Walksnail goggles. And of course, Walksnail goggles also have an HDMI out. And if I just take this mini to mini cable and plug it into the HDMI out of the goggles. Oh, there we go. You can actually see that image on the screen here. There's two ways to do that. One is to go into the camera app. I think I've discovered that if you double click the power button, it opens the camera app. Because this is Android. And basically, they have piped the HDMI input through into the camera app, although at the moment it's not working. It's kind of finicky. Do I need to power cycle? Let's try power cycling. Restart. Sometimes you have to like power cycle with it plugged in. I'm not sure. It's finicky. There we go. Now it's working. So we can just use that to monitor the feed of our Walksnail or HC0 goggles or anything else with an HDMI output. There are some quirks to it. Number one, sometimes it doesn't pick it up. And number two, it doesn't seem to like any signal that isn't 1080p 60. So I had to set my Walksnail goggles to standard frame rate, not high frame rate, and I had to set them to 1080p, not 720. I have talked to other people who have gotten it to work sometimes on 720, but it's pretty finicky. Suffice to say, if you're doing any weird oddball frame rates like HD0's 90 FPS mode or something like that, you really need to feed it a standard signal or it really doesn't like it. And yes, I wondered, can it output HDMI and do pass-through? And yes, it absolutely can. It absolutely can and does. Boom. There we go. So you got it on screen and you could pass it through to something else, although you could also just plug your goggles directly into the something else if you wanted to. Nevertheless, that does work. Now, we're viewing this here in the camera app, but they've done something even more clever than that. If I go to the Radiomaster app, this is the Radiomaster AX app, and it is the app that is used to sort of interact with the RC controller subsystem. If we go there, we can also tap on this center. One of the things it shows is the map. That's the map based on the, if the aircraft is sending telemetry back, it's based on the aircraft's GPS position. And god dang it, this is still working. Why will it not show? It's supposed to show here. Do I need to? God dang it. Let me see if I kill it. Radiomaster. Start. Oh, I think it's going to work this time. Maybe it's going to work this time. Come on. No. Dang it. Well, this is really lame. I can't show you this because for some reason my Walksnail goggles, the screens are just turning off as soon as it powers up, and I can't figure out why. It shows image and then it just goes away, and I'm not going to troubleshoot that right now. But suffice it to say that you can also see the camera feed here in the Radiomaster app. right here in the center of the screen, if you just tap, it shows between showing you a map and showing you the camera feed. And in fact, you can also full screen it if you want. Well, almost full screen. So that's another way that you can see the image. If you wanted to be able to see that feed while you were while you were flying, you're going to be in goggles. But if you wanted it on screen while you were flying without losing access to this interface, that's pretty freaking cool. Let's take a closer look at this Radiomaster app that you're going to use to configure the radio. If you're used to using HDTX to configure your radio, this isn't that. Although, as we look at it, you'll see that there are clearly some inspired parallels between them. Some of that's just because when you set up a radio, there are just some things you want to do that are going to be similar, like all cars have a steering wheel and a gas pedal and brakes, you know, so there's going to be some parallels there. But it is not, let me be very clear, it is not HDTX. In fact, I'm not even sure where this code came from, and that gives me a little bit of pause. So here is the main screen, and it shows the gimbal positions. It shows the main channel outputs, channels, whatever, 1 through 8. We have the switch positions here on the side, and I don't know how useful that is because like I can just reach up and feel the switch, but it's kind of cool to see them move. And we have the potentiometer positions, which is nice because you can't always tell the potentiometer's position just by feeling it. In fact, this one, especially this one on the right, that doesn't have a center detent. There are 2 timers on screen, and I can press this gear to configure the timer, and I can configure the timer to activate on a switch, to start at a time and count down, to count up. There are various ways you can configure the timers if you use timers like to track your flight time or to track your battery life instead of using telemetry. If I swipe to the left, I've got all of the channel outputs up to 16 channels, just showing what is being output to the receiver. And if I swipe to the left again, I've got the telemetry screen. At the moment, we're only going to see telemetry from the internal ELRS module. But if I had a receiver on the drone with telemetry sensors being reported, I would see all of those down here. If I press the gear icon on the lower left, I can configure the radio. Like most radios today, it supports multiple models. We can also create models based on templates. If I go to System, I can configure the system options, like the language, whether it's mode 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's a pretty nice little display there. The pre-flight checks, whether it's going to prompt me if any of the switches are out of place or if any of the channels are not centered. Restore factory settings, let's not do that. System and firmware. This is pretty cool. Like I got this and it was on 1.09 and I just hit the update button and it just connected to the internet and updated the firmware. And just like I just did it, it just overwrote 1.11 with 1.11. So, but that's it. That's how you update firmware on this radio. It's just that simple. Here in the ELRS tab, this basically replaces the Express LRS Lua script. Although I will say there are a couple little glitches here that I had to go to the Express LRS Lua script to do it instead. But basically we've got all of our Express LRS options here. The sounds, you can create new sounds, and in fact, it also does. It doesn't seem to use the standard EdgeTX sounds folder with WAV files. It just seems like it's synthesizing the voice, and that's kind of nice. You can just make it say anything you want it to say instead of just the pre-programmed, pre-recorded stuff. And here, Lua, it will run Lua scripts. So if you do have some custom Lua scripts that you want to run, you can put them on this device and run them. The main one it comes with, of course, is the Express LRS Lua script. And you can see here, I can go down and up, and I can enter, and I can change options, and I can hit back. And it's basically the Express LRS Lua script. There's also, hold on, Lua. I don't know why they included this. This is pretty fun, though. It is a little FPV simulator where you can, oh, I'm flying a drone. It's a little bit silly, but sure, why not? Try to fly this track. Just by way of demonstrating, it can run Lua scripts. Now, what screen size is it emulating? I'm not 100% sure. If you have a particular Lua script that you like to use, like some kind of telemetry script or something that shows on screen, number one, it's not going to be like some of the other radios where you can just have the Lua script on screen, the big color screen radios, where you can basically make the Lua scripts take up the entire screen and essentially completely redo the interface of the radio the way you want. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be running in a little screen like this. And you're going to have to specifically tap over here and run it, as opposed to just whoosh, having it on screen more seamlessly like you can on some of the other radios. The other thing is, I'm not sure which, like it may not just not run on this radio because it doesn't like the emulated screen size. I'm not sure about that. So you would need to, I don't know, you're not going to buy the radio and then find out, oh, it doesn't run the Lewis script that I love, and now you don't want it anymore. I don't know. Like, I'm tempted to say, well, tell me and I'll test it out for you. But I feel like I would get tired of that very quickly. So yeah. Now this icon right here is where we set up the controls. So we can see here all of the inputs. And this is just basically physically checking that the switches and sticks are working. We can also do gimbal calibration here. We're not going to do that. Then we have an output screen. And this is very similar to the Edge TX output screen where we can change the weights and we can invert the channel. But do we have custom curves? Yes, we do. We have a bunch of custom curves. So if we want to put a custom curve on an input, we can. Mixes, this is the mixer screen, very much like the Edge TX mixer screen. And in fact, if I take and I add an input here, you can see many of the options here. We have a switch to activate the mix. We can have a custom curve. We can have a, where's the multiplex mode? We have a multiplex mode. If you're familiar with setting up mixes in Edge TX, you can see there's many parallels here as well. This system is running as an Android app, and it 100% is. Make no mistake, this is an Android app. What happens if I kill the app? Well, the good news is that Radiomaster has not made the mistake that some other companies that make a controller like this have made. They have not run the entire RC control subsystem as an Android app. In fact, they're not even running the RC control subsystem on the same microprocessor as the Android system. There is a separate AT32 chip in here, and that separate chip is running the control link code. So that even if the Android app is closed, the Android app just kind of reaches out across the silicon and configures the RC controller, which is running in its own little sandbox. And so even if I close that app, even if that app crashes, the radio keeps working. But it's not as simple as that. And again, this is a case where I talked to MadsTech and he told me some things. And now that he told them to me, I kind of don't want to just tell them to you and repeat them and kind of steal his original work. And I also kind of feel like it would be a little pointless for me to go replicate his results. And it wouldn't justify if I were to just replicate his results. He's the one who told it to me, so I'm going to let him give you the full results. But the bottom line is that there is enough entanglement between the radio control subsystem running on the separate AT32 processor and the Android subsystem that if the Android system crashes and reboots, it does interrupt your control link. It is somewhat robust. You're still going to get the performance. It's not going to have the extra lag and latency as if it was running as an Android app. And if the Android system gets bogged down, if it gets overloaded, if it runs out of memory, that's not going to affect your RC controls at all. But if it gets to the point where the whole Android subsystem reboots or the device power cycles, then you're going to lose your link until it comes back up again. So you just got to decide how much you care about that. If you love my videos, if you learn a lot from them, if they help you solve problems and make smarter buying decisions, please consider joining my Patreon. Patreon is a website where you can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month, which frankly, that's not that much money. I don't know why all my subscribers don't subscribe at $2 a month. It's literally nothing. But they don't all, and you're not either. And that's fine. But someday, you're going to be watching my content, and you're going to be, God dang, this Bardwell guy, he's awesome. And that's the day when I hope you will just take 2 seconds to go click the link, put your credit card information, put your PayPal and whatever, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. It does add up. And if you wanted to subscribe for more than $2 a month, you could do that too. You can. You're not limited. It's however much you want, however much you think I'm worth. Is that $0? Then just keep watching the video. And I'll keep trying to earn it. Speaking of which, how long does it take you to come back up again? By the way, when you power it off, it doesn't really power off. It comes back up and all the apps that we're running are still running. But from off to on, how long does it take? Here we go. Okay, I still apparently don't know how the power on keystroke. It's not just, I think it's faster. There we go. Okay, how long does this take? Timer on screen, please, editor. And it should automatically run the Radiomaster app. It didn't. Well, it usually does. And boom, now we're up. So, like, not that long. Not as fast as HDTX, but certainly faster than these stupid freaking walk snail goggles that were taking 2 freaking minutes to power up. It's up to you. Let's talk about another thing that you would think you could do with this that it turns out you can't. And then I'll show you a cool thing that it does to, like, counterbalance it. You would think that you could run the Betaflight app. Yes, Betaflight Configurator is available as an Android APK. You have to download it off the, it's not available in the App Store. You download it and you sideload it, but it is available. And sure enough, here it is. It's just the Betaflight Configurator. Yay! And I can confirm for you with 100% certainty, if I do that with my Android phone, and I just plug in a little USB C to C cable, it just works. It just works. It's a beautiful thing. Doesn't work. It doesn't recognize the COM port at all. In fact, if I go here and I choose manual selection, I can't find my USB device. Just nothing happens. And I don't know if this is just because it's a really old version of Android and it doesn't have the serial support or what, but it just doesn't work. And I also, in case you're wondering, yes, I also tried the Speedybee app, and whatever version of the Speedybee app I got is super old, and also doesn't even seem to have support for USB, or maybe it's because it can tell that there's no working USB port on this device. I don't know, but it seems to support Bluetooth, which I didn't test because I don't have a flight controller that has Bluetooth on it, but it doesn't support USB either. That's too bad. Okay, well, what about the simulator? I didn't show you this simulator working, and I think it's pretty cool, but there's a catch. You would think that Radiomaster would have, like, internally to the radio somehow told the Android system that these joysticks were a game controller, so that you could play all your Android games, whatever ones you wanted to play with these sticks, and you could make this like a kind of a portable gaming device almost. They haven't done that. You see, if I go to controls, you can see here, it's not picking up the controls. In order to do this, I have to go into the Express LRS system, and I have to turn on the Wi-Fi. Hold on. I just do Wi-Fi connectivity, enable Wi-Fi. Except the problem is if I do it here, as soon as I step out of this app, it seems to stop the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi goes away. So what I had to do is I had to go to the Lua script, Express LRS, and here it actually works correctly. So go to Wi-Fi connectivity, enter, enable Wi-Fi, enter. Now it will keep running when I drop out of this app. And if I now go back to the simulator and I choose Wi-Fi ELRS, come on. Oh, no, I remember. I have to go to the Wi-Fi and connect to, come on, you SOB. Did I kill the app? No, it's still running. Wi-Fi running. Come on. Oh, there we go. It got it. Express LRS TX. Got it. Okay, so now that it's connected to the Express LRS system via Wi-Fi, we can come back here, and sure enough, it's picked it up. You see it's picked it up, and now we have the sticks working. So it's got to connect over Wi-Fi. That's going to add latency for sure, and it just kind of feels dumb that they didn't somehow figure out how to make this work internally. That also means that you're not going to be able to use this with any other game, because no other game other than like this simulator is going to support Wi-Fi connection to the joystick controller. Can it do Bluetooth? Theoretically, the Express LRS system could turn on as a Bluetooth game controller, and the Android system connect to a Bluetooth game controller. Ooh, I'll test that in just a second. But if I hit play, and if I set... Oh, I have to watch an ad. I set all the graphics to the lowest possible setting. It is almost just barely like not complete ass. Like, oh, see, you're going to be like, well, Bardwell, you're just a terrible pilot. You can't blame the latency for that. And you're like, you're a little bit right, but I'm a better pilot than that. Like, there's definitely issues with the latency. It's not great. I think this simulator is probably pretty decent when used with a proper game controller. Come on, let's see if I can trip you this crane. Ah, I blame the latency. I gotta find out if the Bluetooth will work. So turn off the Wi-Fi. Turn that off. Come back here, kill the Wi-Fi, and we'll go to
recover transmission.
Thanks. BLE joystick. So that's going to turn the ExpressLR system into a Bluetooth joystick.
Lost transmission.
And the question is whether the Android system will recognize it. Bluetooth. Pair a new device. ELRS joystick. Currently connected. Ho ho. Okay. So then if I go back to the simulator, is it going to pick this up as a Bluetooth game controller? That would be slick. Because that would mean that I could use this with any Android game that supports a Bluetooth game controller. Oh my god. I can visually see the lag. Look. It's worse. It's somehow worse. The lag is somehow, look how bad it is. It's like a quarter second. Oh, that's unusable, I'm sure, but nevertheless. Let's try it. Oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad. Oh my god, I can't. Oh god, I can't fly like this. I can't fly like this. It's useless. Wow. That's weird because the Android, the ExpressLRS Bluetooth game controller does have some latency. I don't think it has that much latency though. That's complete trash though. I don't know where the latency is coming from, but that's trash and that's not usable. So the next thing I want to show you is how to use this with QGroundControl and Mission Planner to do like telemetry and tracking and stuff. And the first thing I want to tell you is that yes, this tablet will run mission. Where did Mission Planner go? Where did Mission Planner go? It was on the front page and now it's gone. Yes, this tablet will run Mission Planner, but it is a terrible experience for two reasons. Number one, Mission Planner for Android is just a Windows port, an Android port of the Windows app. It's not a native Android app. If you watch as I tap around, you can barely see it, but there's a tiny little mouse that appears on screen, and essentially it's not optimized at all. You're just clicking around, and then occasionally a keyboard pops up and you type. If you're working on a tablet, it is sort of usable, but on this tiny screen here, like just to select this box, like it's like I have to tap and tap and tap to select the box, and it's really bad. But the other reason that Mission Planner isn't optimal for this setup is that it does not know how to connect via serial port inside the radio to get the telemetry feed. Now you can do it by turning on the ExpressLRS backpack in the ExpressLRS module, and then connecting the Android tablet to the ExpressLRS Wi-Fi, and then it will read the ExpressLRS telemetry over Wi-Fi. But there's two downsides of that. One is that it's not very fast, although the ExpressLRS link is really going to be the limitation there. And the other is that when you connect to the backpack to the Wi-Fi, you lose Wi-Fi. And that means that you can't do things like, you won't have internet access, so you can't do things like download maps and other things that you might want to do. So basically, don't use Mission Planner. If you love Mission Planner, this is not the device for it. But if you download this special version of QGroundControl that Radiomaster made, I'll put a link in the video description below, and we run QGroundControl. Well, hang on. Actually, there's one more thing we got to do. We have to set this aircraft up to do MAVLINK over ExpressLRS. MAVLINK is the protocol that QGroundControl and Mission Planner use to talk to this flight controller, this Pixhawk flight controller. And if you're not doing MAVLINK, basically you can't use them. And I have a whole video tutorial about how to set up MAVLINK over Express LRS, and I'll link it in the video description below if you want to do that. Suffice it to say that that has been done. And now all we need to do is get that MAVLINK telemetry into QGroundControl on the tablet. Okay, so solid LED. The drone is bound to the controller, and now we go into QGroundControl, and then what we have to do is we have to configure a new link, a new way to connect. Hello, there. Go. Give me that. There we go. We're going to turn off all these links. We're not doing any of these. Instead, what we're going to do is we are going to configure a new link and add new link. Name is ELRS MAVLINK. ELRS MAVLINK. And the serial port is TTY-GS0. Or is it TTY? Oh, TTY-S1 is what they've told me to use. Let's try this out. And baud rate should be 4060800. Okay, maybe I'll type it. It's not an option. Oof. I don't like that. Oh, there it is. There it is. 4060800. Great. And save. And then that should do it. Connect. Will it connect?
Return to launch flight mode.
It did. It sounds like it connected. Back out. There we go. It is. It's working. It's downloading parameters. It's taking forever to download.
Fence requires position.
Fence requires position. Oh. So whenever you connect to a MAVLINK flight controller, the default behavior is that you download the entire parameter list, the entire configuration of the flight controller, and that is a lot of data, especially when you're using a 200 hertz, 900 megahertz Express LRS link. If you're going to be doing something like this, it is highly recommended, number one, to be using Gemini. So this is not Gemini, so you can't do that. Well, you could put an external module on the back and do Gemini. But number two, that you're using an 1121 chip, which has access to the K1000 packet rate, which is much, much faster. What an Express LRS dev recommended when I made a video about this topic was that you set the packet rate to K1000, download all the parameters, it goes pretty quickly, and then change it to 200 hertz for your long range stuff, because K1000 doesn't, well, K1000 has okay range, but you maybe want more. So when you see that this download takes for freaking ever, that's actually not the Radiomaster's fault. That is Express LRS's fault. And it's my fault because I'm not using Gemini, and this is a Bandit module, so it only goes up to 200 hertz. And so like it takes 5 or 7 minutes to download the entire parameter list, after which point everything is okay. You can go watch my video about MAVLINK and Express LRS if you want to see. It's not great, but it's usable. And if I was using Express LRS 4.0 with Gemini, which has enhanced this, and if I was using the K1000 packet rate, it would be much better. Well, now that it has finished downloading all the parameters, we can see, sort of how responsive it is. Like, for example, well, it's still not ready to fly. So, but if I go to like vehicle configuration, here is all the flight controller configuration. I'm not going to change any of this, but oh, there we go. Channel monitor is showing movement. Yikes. Like that's way slower than it usually is. Oof. That's pretty slow. Like I moved the stick and it took forever to like update. Some of that is because I am using a slower Express LRS link than is ideal. It would be ideal if I was using Express LRS 4.0 with Gemini, which has improved it's basically doubled the MAVLINK throughput when using Gemini compared to Express LRS 3. And some of that would be better if I was using a faster packet rate like K1000 instead of 200 hertz. I can't do that because number one, this doesn't support Gemini. Number two, I don't have a 1121 receiver on the drone, so you can't do the K1000 packet rate. But I tested Express LRS MAVLINK before using this exact same setup, using that exact drone and my GX12 with an 1121 chip in it. But it did have Gemini. And it was like usably fast. This seems borderline unusably slow, but if all you needed to do was like tap on a map and say go to waypoint, it would work. If all you needed to do was like tap on a parameter list, update a parameter, and you're okay with waiting 5 seconds for the parameter update, it would work. If you need anything like real-time control, you're going to want to use, well, you're not going to want to use Express LRS MAVLINK, or you're going to want to use a higher throughput connection. But this isn't really capable of a higher throughput connection. It doesn't do those things. You would have to put a module on the back, at which point you would no longer be using the integrated serial in the radio. You'd be using Express LRS backpack, and at that point, you might as well just use a different device, kinda. So the big question, should you get the Radiomaster AX12, or should you just use another controller and an Android tablet? I don't think that question is as clear-cut as it might seem like it would be. Because number one, getting another controller and an Android tablet is going to be significantly more expensive. The controller itself could run you between $150 to $250, whereas the AX12 is $250 all by itself. And then the Android tablet, well, obviously it depends on how spiffy of an Android tablet you want, but an Android tablet you can use outdoors with a 1,000 nit screen and so forth. That's going to run you, I think you could easily spend twice as much, $500, for like an Android tablet. Maybe if you went with like a small Android phone, a refurbished Android phone, you could get down into the, $400 price range. You're going to spend more to get a separate Android device. You're going to have more of a janky experience in terms of, having to have some kind of a phone mount or something, so that, whereas this is fully integrated. Never, on the other hand, there's not a lot of use cases where this with the integrated screen is clearly like ideal. Credit to Radiomaster for releasing a custom version of QGroundControl that can read the MAVLINK telemetry internally without having to go through the Wi-Fi backpack. But that's about it. If you want to use a high output transmitter, if you want to use a Gemini transmitter, you put a module on the back. Now you're using Express LRS backpack, and you might as well just be using a standalone device via Wi-Fi. There's except for the integrated screen, I suppose, and the joystick, not fully integrated into the Android system, so you basically can't use it to play games or anything, or only games that support the Express LRS Wi-Fi joystick. I think that there's only one person for whom this radio is definitively the best choice. And that's a person who wants to do DJI, HDMI out, and doesn't want to buy a Cosmo streamer. You could buy this just for that, come out ahead in terms of dollars, and just leave this sitting on a desk somewhere and not even use it as your controller, and it would be arguably worth $250 considering what a Cosmo streamer license costs. But everybody else, I'm not sure how much of a case there is for this radio compared to having another radio and an Android phone or an Android tablet, like a radio with more output power than 250 milliwatts, a radio that can do Gemini, a radio that can do, that's it. That's basically it. You're going to spend more going that way. This radio is $250, and any other radio you buy would be between $150 and $250 just for the radio. Then you got to buy the Android device on top of that. You can get a refurbished Android phone for $150, $200 maybe, so like you're still going to come in roughly twice the cost of this radio by itself. So like there's an argument for trying to make it work, but just like everything you try to make it do, there's like a way in which it doesn't work with Betaflight. That refurbished Android phone that you buy for $200, you can use Betaflight Configurator on it. You can configure flight controller. It'll also run QGroundControl, but it'll connect via USB, as well as this over the Express LR. All these things, all these little downsides. It'll run ATAK because it's got a modern version of Android on it, and it'll do all the other stuff you want it to do. So, yeah, it's a very cool idea. And I think it's pretty good at like two specific things. You could run QGroundControl with it as long as you're okay with the 250 milliwatts and that it's not a Gemini. But I think at K1000 packet rate it'd be okay. And you could do DJI output. That's a killer. And like theoretically, you could use the HDMI input to display the screen of your Walksnail goggles, your HC0 goggles, or some other HDMI source, although the fact that it's limited to 1080p 60 is a little bit of a deal breaker there. But other than that, like, cool idea, great first step, needs more capabilities, needs more refinement. What does it need? It needs Gemini. I want it to have Gemini. I want it to have 1 watt of output power. I want the joystick to be fully integrated to the Android subsystem so that I can play like all the games I would want to play, whatever it might be, without having to do any Express LRS janky stuff. And I want the HDMI input to work with all the common, I'm like, okay, maybe it doesn't have 100 frames per second, but like 720p 60 and 1080p 60 are an absolute must. And right now the 720s don't work so good. I think at that point, it might be a little more compelling. And it would be great if it could run TAK for the people who want to run TAK, but I think that's a relative minority and, you know, maybe not a must-have. If you're interested in picking this radio up, there is a link in the video description below. Please use it. It's an affiliate link. When you click that link and then make a purchase, I get a little bit of money. It's a small percent of what you spent. Do that every time you spend money. Go find one of my affiliate links in the bottom of my video. Click the link, go to the vendor, spend money, and then I get a little bit of money, and that's a very nice way you can support the channel. And if you want to see how I set up Express LRS and MAVLINK, which is pretty cool. You don't need like those SICK radios, those separate 900 megahertz radios that you used to, you don't need them anymore. Express LRS can just do it all by itself. It's fantastic. And if you've ever tried Crossfire MAVLINK and it was terrible and you think it sucks, Express LRS MAVLINK is way better. I've got a tutorial. You can check it out. And I'll see you there.